The recovering Congressman J.D. Hayworth welcoming you back into Hour 3 of America's Forum. You know, Senator Rand Paul is no stranger to social media, and the Kentucky senator took to Twitter to offer up a snarky post, and that snarky post read, "The same old candidates running for president." You see pictures of Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, and Mitt Romney. The hashtag, things to run from. So will voters be running towards or away from a potential Rand Paul nomination for the GOP in 2016? Joining us now, Steve Deace, author of the book, Rules for Patriots, How Conservatives Can Win Again. Steve's Skyping in from Des Moines, Iowa, where he does his radio program. Hey, Steve, this snarky tweet, a good idea by Senator Paul?
Well, he's only saying, JD, what's on everybody's mind. Listen, if you want to find out how low voter turnout can really go, have a Bush-Clinton election next year. We might hit below 40% or right around that number. It'd be the 8th election since 1980 that either a Bush or a Clinton would be on the ticket. And I just think a lot of people want fresh faces. I mean, the arrogance of some of these families, some of these enclaves to believe we couldn't possibly wipe our rear ends, let alone govern ourselves, unless they tell us what to do. I just think people are tired of it.
And we never tire of your interesting way of putting things, Steve. I tell you what, though, Rand Paul does seem to have a more aggressive or tech-savvy media presence than a lot of others. He even did an exclusive snapshot interview with CNN. Let's listen to some of that.
Drones should only be used according to the Constitution, but if they fly over my house, they better beware because I've got a shotgun.
Wait, Rand Paul sounding like Jed Clampett. Does that appeal to the populism and the libertarian strain of the Republican Party?
Well, I mean, sure it does. But, I mean, you know, if you look at the latest odds I put out for the Iowa caucuses, JD, Rand is plummeting. And the reason he's plummeting is because we've had two mega events hosted by the two most important conservative endorsements in the state. Bob Vander Plaats at the Family Leader last August and Congressman Steve King and his Iowa Freedom Summit last weekend. He bypassed both of those events where a majority of the key activists attend. So I'm not really sure what your plan to victory is if you keep bypassing events that essentially serve as cattle calls to try and reel in key activists. He's got to actually get on the ground and do some real campaigning, not just snarky social media, which, by the way, is funny.
It is funny stuff. I'll give him that. Well, let's go to another guy who hasn't been much with Twitter, but set everybody on fire to hear the accounts of the Iowa Freedom Summit, and that would be Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin. He's gotten hot, but people going to cool off when they discover his embrace of amnesty for workers? I'm sure he doesn't call it amnesty, but by your lights, is that what he endorses?
You know, what's funny is I spoke to a lot of key Iowa activists after the event who read some of these accounts in conservative media that it was the Scott Walker Invitational. Now, listen, there's a lot to like about Scott Walker. I say a lot of nice things about what he's done as governor in Rules for Patriots. But a lot of those activists just kind of were bemused. Like, it's almost like these conservative media outlets just came here and that's the story they wanted to run. And they were just going to run that story, whether it's actually true. I mean, if you were there, JD, the reality is there's the reaction Ted Cruz got. And then there's spacebar, 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 the reaction everybody else got. I mean, he's in another stratosphere with the activists. Now, a lot of the what I call governing conservatives, people in elected office or aspiring to, really like Scott Walker. But you know what? Those people all like Tim Pawlenty last time, too. Now, Scott Walker is a vastly superior candidate to Tim Pawlenty, but he will have some explaining to do. He has done sort of a dance with Common Core. He's in, he's out. He's done the same thing with amnesty. And as you well know, JD, those are issues the grassroots is not budging on at all. So Scott Walker's big wins in Wisconsin will certainly give him an audience with the grassroots to close the sale, but he's going to have to be much more eloquent on a broader base of issues and make a definitive stand once and for all on Common Core and amnesty.
But again, with the 30 seconds remaining for your comments, by your lights and by your reckoning, it's Ted Cruz right now and then everybody else.
But that can change. You know, where the vote is in more than a year. Right now, if the caucuses were today, Ted Cruz would win. If the caucuses were a year ago, Rand Paul would have won. So, I mean, things can change, no question about that. And as I've said, every time you've talked to me, people continue to underrate Dr. Ben Carson here in Iowa. He certainly has built quite a cachet.
And that is the thing, right? It's building an organization and getting in touch with the activists, especially in Iowa's socially conservative community. So you're saying don't count out Dr. Carson. 10 seconds.
I wouldn't count out like anybody right now, but Ted Cruz, I mean, listen, this is who the activists covet right now, but that could change.
Steve Deace, we're going to ask you to stay right there. When we come back, a view from the left. Stephen Cobb will join us. He's got a little different perspective, and we'll also take a look at who the Democrats might offer up in 2016. We offer this invitation for you to come back with us following this break.